Alistair looked at Marcus, his face unreadable. I just hired a new driver, and I need to know if he's an honest man. So today, we're going to find out. We're going to see how Mr. O'Connell handles the weight of opportunity. He walked towards the door, briefcase in hand. Let's see what he's really made of. From his penthouse office, 40 floors above the endless river of traffic, Alistair Sterling watched the city wake up. The skyline was a jagged line of ambition drawn against a grey morning canvas. This was his world, a world he'd conquered with steel, glass, and shrewd decisions. He'd built a global logistics empire from scratch, and his name was a synonym for ruthless efficiency. But today, his mind wasn't on global markets. It was on one man. A man he'd just hired, who was waiting for him downstairs right now. Alistair turned from the window. I've read his file a dozen times, he said to Marcus, his longtime head of security. Impeccable record. Glowing recommendations. Not a single smudge. He paused, picking up a sleek, black leather briefcase from his desk. But recommendations can be bought. Records can be scrubbed. Trust has to be earned. And today, I'm going to find out if Liam O'Connell is worth mine. He clicked open the latches, revealing stacks of $100 bills. $250,000. People change when this kind of temptation is staring them in the face, Alistair said, his eyes fixed on the cash. Character isn't what you do when people are watching. It's what you do when you think you're alone. He snapped the briefcase shut. My last driver, a man I trusted for a decade, sold company secrets for a fraction of this. Betrayal leaves a mark, Marcus. It makes you careful. This wasn't just about hiring a driver, it was about protecting his legacy. Alistair had learned the hard way that integrity was the most valuable asset he had, and he was about to put it to the ultimate test. The sympathetic character. Liam O'Connell stood beside the gleaming black sedan, the kind of car he'd only ever seen in movies. He smoothed down his slightly too big suit jacket, a nervous habit he couldn't shake. He'd been a driver for 10 years, for catering companies, small-time execs, even a local wedding service, but this? This was Sterling Global Logistics. This was the big leagues. He'd shown up 30 minutes early, checked the car inside and out, and polished an imaginary speck of dust from the hood. Punctuality and presentation, his dad used to say, were the first signs of a good man. The skyscraper's doors hissed open and Mr. Sterling emerged, moving with an aura of power that seemed to bend the air around him. Liam immediately stood taller. Good morning, Mr. Sterling. Liam O'Connell. It's a pleasure. Alistair gave him a quick, appraising look. O'Connell. Punctual. I like that. He handed Liam the heavy briefcase. Put this in the back. Be careful with it. Of course, sir. Liam took the case, surprised by its weight. He opened the rear door and placed it gently on the floor, making sure it wouldn't slide around. As they pulled into traffic, the silence in the car was thick. Liam focused on the road, navigating the city's arteries with smooth, practiced skill. The rule was simple, don't speak unless spoken to. It was Alistair who broke the silence. You've been a driver for a while, O'Connell. What keeps you in it? It felt like a casual question, but Liam knew the interview wasn't over. Liam met his new boss's eyes in the rearview mirror. It's steady work, sir. And I like the focus of it. Getting someone from point A to point B, safely and on time, there's satisfaction in doing a job well. A noble thought, Alistair said, his tone unreadable. Are you a family man? For a moment, Liam's professional mask softened. Yes, sir. It's just me and my younger sister, Erin, now. Our parents passed a few years back. I'm sorry to hear that, Alistair said, his voice softening almost imperceptibly. Is she in school? A shadow crossed Liam's face, a flicker of worry so deep it was almost tangible. She was studying to be a nurse. But, she had to stop. She got sick. He swallowed hard. He hadn't meant to share so much, it felt unprofessional. But the question had opened a door to the one thing that consumed his every thought. Sick. Alistair prompted, his gaze now sharp and focused. It's a rare autoimmune disorder, Liam explained, his voice low. The treatments are experimental. And they're incredibly expensive. Insurance barely covers any of it. So, I work every hour I can. This job is a lifeline, Mr. Sterling. It means she has a chance. He didn't say more. He didn't have to. The raw, desperate truth of his situation hung in the air. Here was a good man in a tight spot, fighting a battle against a mountain of debt for the person he loved most. He wasn't just working for a paycheck, he was working for his sister's life. Alistair simply nodded and turned back to the window. I see, he said again, but this time the words carried a different weight. He now understood the battlefield for his test. He wasn't just testing a man's honesty, he was pitting it against a brother's desperate love. The stakes had just been raised. Section 2, the test is set. Their first stop was a high-stakes meeting at a rival corporation. Liam waited with the car for 2 hours, his thoughts drifting to Erin in her hospital bed, her bright smile dimmed by pain. He could almost hear her laugh, the way she'd crinkle her nose before telling a joke. She was the reason for all of this. The reason he wore this suit and drove a car worth more than everything he owned. When Alistair Sterling returned, his face was like thunder. The deal had gone south. He got into the back of the car, his jaw tight. The airport, he snapped. Step on it. Liam nodded, pulling smoothly into traffic. He drove with intense focus, determined to prove that he was the best at what he did, that this job was safe with him. They arrived at the private airfield with minutes to spare. Alistair's jet was waiting, its engines already whining. As Alistair jumped out of the car, he was already barking orders into his phone. Get me the financials on their European division. I want them by the time I land. He slammed the door shut and strode towards the jet without a backward glance. Liam watched him go, feeling a small sense of pride. He'd gotten his boss here on time, even under pressure. He got out to secure the back of the car for the drive back to the Sterling Tower garage. He opened the rear door to do a routine check. And his heart stopped. There, on the floor, was the briefcase. Liam just stared. It couldn't be. Mr. Sterling, a man of meticulous control, couldn't have just forgotten a briefcase. Especially not one that felt so heavy, so important. He looked up. The jet was already taxiing down the runway. He could run, wave his arms like a madman, but it was useless. He was alone. Alone with a black leather briefcase that his billionaire boss had left behind. A wave of cold dread washed over him. This was a disaster. First day on the job, and he'd already failed. Mr. Sterling would be furious. He'd be fired, no question. The lifeline for Erin was gone. But then, another thought, quiet and sneaky, slithered into his mind. He was alone. No one saw Mr. Sterling leave the case. No one was watching. He thought about its weight. What could be inside? Curiosity, a powerful and dangerous thing, began to war with his panic. He glanced around the empty tarmac. Just him, the car, and the case. With a trembling hand, he reached for the handle. The drive back to the city was the longest of Liam's life. The briefcase sat on the passenger seat next to him, a silent, menacing presence. It was a black box holding both his ruin and, just maybe, his salvation. His mind was a storm of fear, temptation, and duty. He could just drive to the office, hand it to security, and explain. It was the right thing to do. He'd probably still get fired for not noticing it sooner, but at least his conscience would be clear. But then Aaron's pale face flashed in his mind. He pictured the stack of unpaid medical bills on his kitchen table. He heard her voice, trying to be brave for him, telling him not to worry when he knew she was terrified. What if? The question echoed in the silent car. What if this wasn't a mistake, but a miracle? What could be in that case? Papers? Prototypes? Or money? He pulled over on a quiet side street, his heart hammering against his ribs. He couldn't breathe. His hands, slick with sweat, fumbled with the latches. This was it. The line you read about in stories. Once you cross it, there's no going back. He thought of his father. A man is only as good as his word, Liam, he used to say. You can lose everything, but if you keep your integrity, you're still a rich man. A wave of shame washed over him. What was he even thinking? This was his boss's property. His responsibility. But the serpent of desperation whispered, think about Aaron. This isn't for you, it's for her. Who would it hurt? A man like Sterling, whatever's in this case is a rounding error to him. By the time he even notices, you and Aaron will be long gone. Somewhere safe. A life without this crushing weight. Driven by a force he didn't understand, he clicked open the latches. The soft snick sounded like a gunshot. He lifted the lid. And he forgot how to breathe. It was cash. Stacks and stacks of pristine, $100 bills. More money than he had ever seen. It was a fantasy. It was Aaron's surgery. It was a life free from the suffocating grip of poverty. It was the answer to every single problem he had. He slammed the lid shut, his body trembling. He felt sick. This was too much. To see it, to know it was real and within his grasp, it was a physical pain. He rested his forehead against the steering wheel. He saw two paths. One was bright, leading to relief, but it was shrouded in a fog of shame and fear. He'd have to run, hide, look over his shoulder for the rest of his life. He'd have to become a thief. The other path was dark. It led straight back to the mountain of debt and sleepless nights. It probably led to unemployment. But at the end of that dark path, his integrity was intact. He would still be the brother Aaron could be proud of. He'd be poor, but he'd be free. Which was worth more? Aaron's health or his honor? Then he imagined Aaron's face if she ever found out the truth. The disappointment. The shame. That, he realized, was a price he couldn't pay. The money could fix her body, but the lie would break her heart. With a deep, shuddering breath, his decision was made. The storm inside him settled into a calm, hard resolve. He started the car and drove back towards Sterling Tower. He was going to return the briefcase. Section 4, The Reveal and the Confrontation. The journey back was different. The briefcase was no longer a temptation, it was just a package to be delivered. Liam knew he was probably going to be fired. He rehearsed his apology, Mr. Sterling, I am deeply sorry. I take full responsibility for this oversight. Simple. Honest. He pulled into the executive garage and parked. He walked to the private elevator, his footsteps echoing in the silence. He expected to deal with security, but instead, he saw Marcus waiting for him. Marcus's expression was unreadable. Mr. Sterling is waiting for you in his office, he rumbled. Liam's blood ran cold. He knows. How? Was there a tracker in the case? A camera in the car? He's back already. Sudden change of plans, Marcus said, gesturing to the elevator. He's waiting. The ride up was agonizing. Liam clutched the briefcase, his knuckles white. The elevator opened, and there was Alistair Sterling, standing by the window just as he had been that morning. He turned, and his eyes locked on the briefcase. O'Connell, he said, his voice flat. I see you found my property. Liam walked forward and placed the briefcase on the desk between them. Mr. Sterling. I am so sorry. You left this in the car. I should have noticed before you boarded. There's no excuse, sir. Alistair didn't say a word. He walked slowly around the desk until he was standing right in front of Liam, his presence radiating an intense pressure. Then, he did something Liam didn't expect. He gestured to the briefcase. Open it. Sir. Open it, Alistair repeated. With trembling fingers, Liam undid the latches and lifted the lid, revealing the untouched stacks of cash. Alistair stared at the money, then slowly lifted his gaze to meet Liam's. The cold mask he wore seemed to crack, and for the first time, Liam saw something else in his eyes, genuine, unadulterated shock. He was truly stunned. He hadn't expected this. This quiet, dignified return. This unwavering honesty. You drove around with $250,000 for over an hour, Alistair said, his voice barely a whisper. I know about your sister. I know what this money could have done for you. I know the pressure you're under. Liam stood his ground. It wasn't my money, sir. It was the only answer. A storm of emotions crossed Alistair's face, disbelief, wonder, and profound respect. My last driver, a man I knew for 10 years, sold me out for $20,000, he said. This wasn't a mistake, Liam. I didn't forget the briefcase. The pieces clicked into place. The sudden trip. The forgotten case. Marcus waiting for him. It was all a setup. A cruel, elaborate test. A wave of sharp indignation rose in him. You tested me. The relief of not being fired was instantly replaced by a feeling of violation. He'd been played, his deepest vulnerabilities used in some rich man's game. Yes, Alistair said, his voice firm, now laced with a deep sincerity. I did. Because trust is more valuable than anything in that case. I had to know, without a doubt, who I was letting into my inner circle. And you, Liam O'Connell, you have a level of integrity I honestly no longer believed existed. Section 5, The Reward and Conclusion. Liam was speechless, caught between anger and relief. He'd been played, but he'd also passed a test he never knew he was taking. Alistair looked at Liam with new eyes. The dynamic between them had shifted. I understand if you're angry, he said softly. What I did was unorthodox. But I need people who are honest when it's the hardest thing in the world to be. You were faced with the ultimate temptation, at a time of your greatest need, and you chose honor. That's remarkable. He pushed the open briefcase across the desk toward Liam. You could have taken this, and I'd be just another rich man who got wronged. Instead, you brought it back. You proved your character isn't for sale. Liam stared at the money. I don't understand. This isn't a reward, Liam, Alistair said. It's an investment. An investment in a man of integrity. Alistair picked up his phone. Sarah, get me the head of finance, now. He waited a beat. David? Alistair. I'm sending you the details of a hospital account. I want you to pay the outstanding balance in full, yes, all of it. Then set up a fund to cover all future medical expenses for a Ms. Erin O'Connell. No limit. Whatever she needs, for as long as she needs it. Because I said so. He hung up. Tears were streaming down Liam's face. The crushing weight he had carried for years had just vanished. Your sister will get the best care in the world, Alistair said quietly. She won't have to worry about money another day in her life. And neither will you. He closed the briefcase and pushed it firmly towards Liam. This is yours. Consider it a signing bonus for a new position. I'm not looking for a driver, Liam. I'm looking for a right-hand man. Someone to manage my personal logistics, to travel with me, to be someone I can trust. The job pays 5 times what you're making now. And it comes with my complete confidence. Liam finally found his voice, choked with emotion. Sir. I can't. This is too much. Nonsense, Alistair waved his hand. Good people are a good investment. You passed a test you never asked for, and you made the hard right choice instead of the easy wrong one. In my world, that makes you priceless. The story of the millionaire and his new driver became a quiet legend at Sterling Global. It was a story about how a briefcase full of cash didn't test a man's greed, but revealed his strength. And in the end, it served as a powerful reminder that honesty is a currency that never, ever loses its value. CTA. We hope this story moved you. What would you have done in Liam's position? Let us know in the comments. If you believe that honesty and integrity should always be rewarded, please like this video and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Conclusion. What happened between Alistair and Liam wasn't just a simple test, it was a powerful look at human character. It shows that who we are is truly defined by the hard choices we make when no one is looking. The millionaire, burned by past betrayals, set up a dramatic test to find someone he could truly trust. Liam, in turn, didn't just return the money, he held on to the values that defined him, even when it seemed to cost him everything. The stunning outcome is a timeless lesson: integrity is an invaluable asset, and holding on to it can lead to rewards you could never imagine.